The New York Giants are 5-1 with the improbable victory over the Baltimore Ravens. Nick Falato, a Big Blue View here to do a quick breakdown of two sequences of plays on the defensive side of the football where the Giants were able to hold the Baltimore Ravens and force them to settle for a field goal. And that could have been the difference in the Giants winning this football game. And those two drives are important because, yes, all day we could talk about the Julian Love interception. That was an excellent individual effort by Love to bait Lamar Jackson after the bad snap. Also have Kayvon Thibodeaux's individual effort on the sack. So happy for the kid. But these two drives, it was where the Giants showed resilience. Bend, don't break. Flex like Gumby, maintain elasticity, and ensure that your opponent does not get into the end zone for a touchdown. The Giants did that on this drive. Let's break those two drives down. This first sequence of plays is Baltimore's second offensive drive, an 11-play, 46-yard drive that ended in a missed field goal by Justin Tucker, which virtually never happens. And the play we're going to watch first, the one that you're watching right now, follows the Josh Oliver 12-yard catch that was overturned by the refs, and the Giants at 1st and 10 at their own 32-yard line. The Ravens are methodically moving the football, and the Giants come out pre-snap, middle of the field, closed look, and they're in a match type of defense. And you're going to see how Demarcus Robinson ends up coming open right here as Adoree Jackson, the bottom of your screen. Adoree Jackson switches because he sees this receiver going to the flat, and he has flat responsibility, so there's going to be a transition with Julian Love against Demarcus Robinson. And look, Demarcus Robinson is beating him deep at this point, but the pressure applied by Kayvon Thibodeaux disallows Lamar Jackson from seeing that, which we'll see on the next angle. Watch how Julian Love gets back in phase, works through the catch point there to get a PBU. And here we'll see it from the end zone angle. The Giants are in a tight formation, have 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. They had 5 guys on the line of scrimmage basically all game. They were in tight a lot of the time just to clog up these interior rushing lanes and then also help contain Lamar Jackson with disciplined edge play. But right here we're going to have Kayvon Thibodeaux win around the edge of Josh Oliver, and that's going to force Lamar Jackson to step up into the pocket just like this, flow around, reset his feet, locate Demarcus Robinson, and then throw the football. But you can see how Julian Love works right through the catch point and gets his hand on the football right there to force this incompletion. And go over it one more time. Again, this is a 1st and 10 play. Look, you have 2 guys well off Devin Duvernay and Demarcus Robinson at this point. And you can see how the pivot outside, that's going to switch the responsibilities. And Julian Love does a great job getting back into phase after Adoree Jackson transitions Demarcus Robinson to him to force this incompletion. Watch how Kayvon Thibodeaux, this is a tight end, mind you, but he makes contact, and they're basically holding hands at that point. He makes contact with his outside hand on Josh Oliver's outside hand, and he just brings his inside arm right up through the outside arm of Josh Oliver. This is a rip move. It's very, very common in the NFL. Giants are sending 5 guys on this pass rush with Xavier McKinney to occupy Ronnie Stanley right here, and that's what creates this one-on-one matchup with Josh Oliver and Kayvon Thibodeaux. Trust me, that is by scheme, because over here on this side, you basically have 2 wasted blockers in the protection right here, because the Ravens are out here in a 7-man protection to allow this deep concept to materialize. But Oshane Ximines occupies both of these players and then just drops off to work underneath the number 1 or 2 if they released inside, and also pay attention to Ricard after he leaves the protection. But that sets up a 2nd and 10, which ends up being a 2nd and 15 because Patrick Ricard ends up taking one of the many false start penalties by the Baltimore Ravens. So now we have a 2nd and 15 just outside or just in field goal range, I think we could say, for Justin Tucker. And I love how the Giants play this run right here. Oshane Ximines being very disciplined on the edge and does not allow Mark Andrews to bully him off the spot right here. So we're going to have, and this is something that the Ravens did all game, they're going to motion this player across the formation. And then Lamar Jackson's going to go into the mesh point, and here you're going to pull the backside guard. The Ravens is almost essentially always ran a backside guard puller, some sort of puller. So now you have 2 pullers pulling to the play side. So it's going to be on Mark Andrews to create this gap. And now a lot of the times the Ravens block down, but for whatever reason, Mark Andrews, who has leverage on Oshane Ximines right here, does not block down, and he tries to bully Oshane Ximines out this direction and then create the rushing lane right here, which that's the design play. You could see how that lineman climbs up and locates Dane Belton. Well, just call him a lineman. It's Patrick Ricard, the fullback, and that's exactly where the guard is coming. But watch how Oshane Ximines plays this. He sets outside and contains and then just puts both of his hands on Mark Andrews' chest and sinks his center of gravity. absolutely not being moved off the spot, and then he pushes Mark Andrews to narrow this rushing lane. And that, combined with Julian Love filling really aggressively right here. You can see how Julian Love is right on the line of scrimmage, and he was reading all this. He sees the guard start to pull into the hole, and he also realizes that Mark Andrews is positioning himself in a manner that this is going to be the primary rushing lane right here. So Julian Love just sits right in the primary rushing lane, and that, combined with Oshane Ximines, bounces the running back in this direction, and then Oshane Ximines does a great job just coming off of his block and tackling J.K. Dobbins for a loss. But one reason why Oshane Ximines is able to play this so well is because the Giants are so good in their run fits, specifically Julian Love, who is a safety playing up near the box. Julian Love's position here just forces J.K. Dobbins around this way, where he can hopefully get around Oshane Ximines, who's doing a really good job against Mark Andrews, and you also have Adoree Jackson against Devin Duvernay over there. So J.K. Dobbins is going to take that risk, but Oshane Ximines doesn't even allow him to, because this is played so well by Oshane Ximines, keeping Mark Andrews off his chest, and that sets up a 3rd and 15 because there was no gain on that play. Well, technically 3rd and 16 because I believe the Ravens actually lost a yard, but here it's the 3rd and 16 play, and all the Ravens need is a little bit to make this field goal a little bit more doable for Justin Tucker. Even though they're already in field goal range, Ravens come out and you have 3 eligible receivers to the boundary side with 1 lone receiver up top, and then Kenyon Drake right here. The Giants just come out in quarters, and I like how Darnay Holmes, even though he's in corners and he has curl flat type of responsibility, he might be tasked here to work inside and disrupt the release of Mark Andrews right there. And you can see how he does that, and then he gets underneath Mark Andrews, who ends up bending around, and there's no one else in the middle of the field, but no one accounts for the flat. I'm not sure if this is some sort of switch with Tay Crowder right here, because Tay Crowder initially is paying attention to the number 3, but the number 3 goes inside, so Tay Crowder makes the undercall, and you can see how Dane Belton reacts to that. He comes off what Dane Belton was going to do as he peeks in this direction, and then he's like, okay, now I have the number 3 coming underneath. I'm going to take him. So now Tay Crowder is looking for something to do. Darnay Holmes more than likely did not want to leave Mark Andrews unoccupied. So now Tay Crowder, as he's looking for something to do other than maintaining a presence in this part of the field, which is important because you have Mark Andrews releasing just outside of this, and he's a threat over the middle of the field all the time. He realizes that Kenyon Drake is streaking into the flat, and he darts in that direction. And luckily for the Giants, Lamar Jackson overthrows or underthrows, depending on, I guess, your perspective here, Kenyon Drake, who just doesn't position himself where Lamar Jackson throws the football. So the Giants just drop into quarters here, and they end up getting an incomplete pass. And what happens? Justin Tucker goes to kick this 56-yard field goal, and it hits the left upright, and the score remains 0-0, as they say in soccer. That was an important drive early in the game, but there's an argument that this goal line stand is much more important later in the game in the 3rd quarter, with the Ravens already having a lead. The Giants come up with this goal line stand after the Ravens have 5 consecutive first downs. They have 5 consecutive first downs that position Baltimore at 1st and goal on the 5-yard line, and the Giants defense stands firm. Let's go back to first down and watch it. The Giants are caught reeling a little bit here, and you can see that the Ravens used a condensed and tight formation, and the Giants run cover 1-man coverage. They keep their safety deep, but they bring the pressure here, and they get after Lamar Jackson to force this incomplete pass, and we'll show exactly how that happens. You can see Lamar Jackson just underthrows the receiver here. Let's look at the formation for the Giants. You have the tight front again, Nick Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams right here, all tight, all within the tackle box. And then you have both of these linebackers with both the edge rushers, Jihad Ward and Kayvon Thibodeaux. And watch how the Giants create a free rusher here. Watch the path of the defenders after the snap. Here comes Tay Crowder, unaccounted for, to put the pressure on Lamar Jackson and force this incomplete pass to Devin Duvernay. Now let's see how exactly that happens, because Dexter Lawrence is going to engage Tyler Linderbaum right at the snap, right? And you're going to have Nick Williams take 72, and then Jihad Ward's going to take 79. So you have a hat-on-hat to the left side of the screen. So what does Leonard Williams do to ensure that Kevin Zeitler pays attention to him when his initial Leonard Williams, that is, when his initial alignment is as a 4 technique over 65 to tackle. Leonard Williams is going to engage Kevin Zeitler on purpose right here. He's going to run directly into Zeitler and go bull rush right there. And then Dexter Lawrence, who is a nose initially, isn't going to go straight through Tyler Linderbaum. He's going to open up to the outside shoulder of Linderbaum. And what's that going to do? Linderbaum is going to shift outside. Kevin Zeitler is going to shift to meet Leonard Williams, while 65 doesn't block anybody, and then Tay Crowder runs right into the A-gap, unblocked. Kenyon Drake, I'm not sure if he's supposed to be in the protection right there, if he's supposed to pick this up. More than likely he is. And Tay Crowder gets this pressure, and the pass goes incomplete. But this happens by design right here. Tay Crowder's not really tipping his hand. He takes a little step forward there. But it's the path of Dexter Lawrence and the path of Leonard Williams that opens up this beautiful A-gap right here that allows Tay Crowder to come right in unabated to force that incomplete pass and to get the Giants into a second down situation, which we will watch right here. 2nd and goal, 3rd quarter, 9:56 left. Ravens use motion, play action, and then we're going to see an almost interception right there by Dane Belton and Fabian Moreau. Lamar Jackson really putting this football into a precarious situation right here on 2nd down. And watch what the Giants do. They don't necessarily bring pressure like they did before. You're going to have Jihad Ward and Kayvon Thibodeaux both kind of drop, sink underneath these receivers, but more importantly, spy Lamar Jackson. So the Giants end up dropping 8, essentially, in this situation. And you can see how the Ravens are running mesh concepts. The Giants are running zone here. The Giants don't even come out in man coverage. And they're paying attention to what's going on. You can see Dane Belton right here and how he somewhat baits Lamar Jackson. It's not as much baiting as it is just him playing the style of football that he played at Iowa, which I'll show you right now.
Iowa defensive coordinator Phil Parker relies on spatially aware players with high processing and instincts who understand offensive route concepts and know how to use timing to bait quarterbacks into poor decisions. Iowa led the FBS in interceptions last season with 25, and let's be honest, it's not like Hawkeyes recruiting 5-star players at the Rapid. Belton was particularly good at detaching off-route assignments for interceptions, as we'll see throughout this video. Belton had 8 PBUs and 5 interceptions in 2021 from the star position that Iowa calls the cash spot. He's a shade under 6'1", 205 pounds, and he ran a 4.43 at the combine with a 1.5, 110-yard split.
A little throwback to our draft coverage, but look at the one player who is being man covered by Xavier McKinney. That is, of course, Mark Andrews. See how the Giants drop Tay Crowder, too? In the middle of the field, he looks, he peers, he works underneath. Mark Andrews in any other crossing route. You also have Demarcus Robinson right here. We can see the hyper-awareness containing a mobile quarterback and having 8 guys drop in coverage. But watch how Dane Belton almost baits this interception. We have Dane Belton right here in the box. Lamar Jackson goes to drop back. Dane Belton is going to flow with Patrick Ricard. And then he's going to set and he's going to peer in this direction to see if there's anything coming over the middle of the field. And it's at this point when Lamar Jackson is deciding to throw the football. And then Dane Belton flashes his eyes back to Lamar Jackson, jumps, and then gets his hands on this football. And you can't really see because there's so much white on the screen. But it goes through Dane Belton's hands. He tips it enough to allow Mark Andrews to not catch this ball. And then Fabian Moreau almost comes away with the interception there. The Giants almost intercepted the ball twice on this play. And it's the positioning of Dane Belton and the way he kind of works these routes. Because right here, Lamar Jackson sees Dane Belton in this throwing window, but he sees Dane Belton put all of his weight on this outside foot, and it looks like, seemingly, would make sense to have Dane Belton follow Patrick Ricard here. But Dane Belton just sits right back into this zone, flashes his eyes back outside, and positions himself right into this throwing window where you have Mark Andrews working across the field. And I think that's on purpose, too. I think that is something by Wink Martindale for Tay Crowder and for Dane Belton to be disciplined in this part of the field, because you have Jihad Ward and Kayvon Thibodeaux dropping off. You have other defenders, but don't vacate the middle of the field because Mark Andrews runs over the middle of the field so often. And Dane Belton did not vacate the middle of the field, even though it looked like he was going to, and he almost comes away with the interception, and this results in the Ravens going into a 3rd and 5 situation after the Giants narrowly get a takeaway. Now it's the 3rd and goal, and the Ravens drove the football down the Giants' throats to get to the 5-yard line, and this is where the Giants really show how resilient they are. Let's watch this play, and then we'll break it down. Lamar Jackson gets flushed, and this is not PI right here. I initially thought it until I watched the All-22. Julian Love just does a really good job against Isaiah Likely here. But watch how the Giants get pressure and what they do with Oshane Ximines, which is really important here. Here we have Oshane Ximines, right? Now let's watch how the Giants get pressure here. Giants send a bunch of defenders at Lamar Jackson to flush him towards Oshane Ximines, who initially acts like he's coming on the blitz, right? Watch. He takes that hard step forward right there. And what does that do? That is going to force Ronnie Stanley to work up the pass rushing arc and respect Oshane Ximines. And why is that important? That's important because the Giants are going to essentially send Dane Belton and Tay Crowder, who will both end up being the responsibility of Mike Davis. You're going to see how that happens. Dexter Lawrence, who was initially the nose, is going to release into Ben Powers right here. Just like we said before, right? He's not going straight into Tyler Linderbaum. He's releasing into Ben Powers, and that is purposeful because that's going to occupy the guard. And since Oshane Ximines is selling like he's rushing, that's going to occupy the tackles. That's going to open up the B gap and allow Tay Crowder to come in unblocked. But you also have, to the other side of the formation, Leonard Williams, who is going to work through the inside shoulder of Kevin Zeitler right here purposefully to go right at Tyler Linderbaum. And that is going to create a rushing lane for Dane Belton, who ends up coming right into this A-gap. So you have occupied blocker on nobody, who is now in coverage and also spying Lamar Jackson, sinking underneath these crossing routes too. Occupied blocker, and then you have Mike Davis, who is the sixth man in protection, ends up taking Tay Crowder and actually does a job getting knocked off Tay Crowder and then getting in the way of Dane Belton, which ends up flushing Lamar Jackson. But this is how Wink Martindale just ends up scheming 2-versus-1 type of opportunities because of the paths of Dexter Lawrence and the paths of Leonard Williams here, and just this little subtle step or two forward by Oshane Ximines to waste Ronnie Stanley. Wink Martindale wastes blockers. He wastes offensive blockers and creates advantageous rushing lanes for his defenders. And you can see that right here. But also, Oshane Ximines is vital to this play. And the scheme and what he was asked to do is vital. Because not only does he hold Ronnie Stanley in place with that strong step forward, which allows Tay Crowder and Dane Belton to get a scheme 2-versus-1 on Mike Davis, but then he sinks underneath Isaiah Likely right here. So Lamar Jackson wants to throw this crosser right here because you have this defender getting cleared out. So if Oshane Ximines is not here, you have Julian Love against Isaiah Likely, and a football right in this area hit Isaiah Likely in stride. That's going to be a touchdown, but Lamar Jackson cannot throw that ball right now because you have Oshane Ximines right in the throwing window, and Oshane Ximines ends up closing with on Lamar Jackson, getting his hands in the air and harassing Lamar Jackson, who ends up overthrowing Isaiah Likely. Because right here you can say, oh, is it PI? Look, the ball is about to cross right where Isaiah Likely is, and there's no contact. I think right here Julian Love might put his hand on the hip to get that front hand into the throwing lane, but the ball is overthrown. That's a good no call there. But Oshane Ximines is vital to this play and what Wink Martindale asks him to do. Because not only does he, like we said, manipulate the protection, he contains Lamar Jackson, spies on him, and he sinks underneath the backside crossing route to cause hesitation and a delay, which eventually led to pressure on Lamar Jackson, which eventually led to the overthrow. Love it. Field goal. Giants end up getting the win. And there we have it. 2 drives that the Giants really solidified and ensured that the Baltimore Ravens were not going to score a touchdown through scheming and through execution. And that's the recipe for good football right there. Scheme, execution, coaching, putting their players into the optimal positions to execute their assignments at a high level. And that's exactly what we're seeing through 6 weeks from these New York Football Giants. And I hope we continue to see it because it feels excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I am Nick Filato, and this is Big Blue View. Please head on over to bigblueview.com, check out all of our written content, and also head on over to Big Blue View Radio for all of our podcasts. Take care of each other and have a lovely day.